Welcome to the Love Mondays podcast. My goal is to bring inspiring and authentic guests on the show who can help everyone love their Mondays and every other day of the week. I'm thrilled to introduce Hugh Lawson, the president and principal of Lawson Leadership Advisory. With over 25 years of experience in BD, enterprise sales, and leadership, Hugh's insights on resilience, relationship building, and teamwork are invaluable. Join us as we discuss his pursuit of his ikigai, his approach of helping purpose-driven leaders and social impact organizations thrive, and the wisdom he's gained from his career, and his commitment to creating positive change in the world. Hugh helps purpose-driven leaders all over the world, and I'm so excited to have him on. Hugh, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, how are you? Good to see you, Ron. Always a slice.
Amazing.
My man, Ron.
I love it. So my first question, what can folks who don't currently love their Mondays do to start loving Mondays and every other day a little more?
I actually think, just from personal experience, you got to do a manual override. If you stay on that train of the status quo, Mondays are brutal. There's a malaise to it. You're coming off of a weekend. You've probably cooked your brain, all Sunday evening, dreading Monday. So literally when you wake up that morning, you're waking up with like a 50-pound weight on your chest. What I found in this entrepreneurial chapter is like I have to be very intentional with breaking that monotony, like shaking it up. It's almost like someone throwing a cup of cold water on your face and just almost doing that manual override or that interrupt or that intervention. And for me, that could be pausing through meditation. It could also mean purposely and intentionally starting your day with something very action-packed. It could mean stepping away and getting outside and doing a morning walk so that you can take in nature. Like, it's incredible what it does to the brain when you're walking, you have movement, and you're in proximity to trees and foliage or music. It could be purposely and intentionally having meetings with specific people that are high energy people. Like, I find that whenever I have meetings, like I have clients overseas in the Middle East, and because it's a place, the people that I'm blessed to work with are very positive and live a life of abundance. If I have a call with them, even if it's 4:00 in the morning, I'm flying for the rest of the day because it's almost like that pistol at the start of the sprint. So all those things are going to happen like innately or naturally. Like, you literally have to be intentional and take a step back and almost like do a short circuit and just break the status quo, because you got to give yourself grace. Like, Monday's a tough day. Just in its nature, it's literally like you're starting from a crawl. You're trying to get like a 10,000 weight on a skateboard going. And to try and do that after having a weekend of rest and then also an evening of grumpiness, thinking about pushing that rock uphill, just in a default setting, Monday is brutal. So you got to do something different. Like, we all know the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You know what I equate it to? Like, I'm a boxing guy. Anybody knows in the boxing game, typically in the first round, each fighter will throw jabs just to get feelers, just to feel for space, see what the opponent is reacting to. So most boxers will expect that you as an opponent will come out and start maybe putting your left arm up, just trying to get a feel for space, maybe flick something at you. But then you had people like Mike Tyson, who was trained by the legendary Customato, where he always led with a right cross. Like, he always came out, and when he came out, he threw something big at you. And you're waiting for this little tippy-tap jab, and then boom, you get like a right cross upside your head.
Fight's over.
Figuratively, that's what you have to do with your Mondays. You can't do it like some of the boxers say, little tippy-tap jab. You got to throw a bomb. Like, you got to throw a bomb. You got to be intentional. You got to do something different, something that's unexpected. So it could just shake up all the neurons in your brain, get the blood flowing, get the adrenaline pumping, get endorphins going. Yeah, you equate it. You got to do something different. You got to do something different. And that's what I've been doing, not only on Mondays, but any other days where I know it's going to be a slog. Like I just got to do something different in the morning. You know.
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, it's very helpful advice to me right now because in my business, this month is a little slower, right? So it's like,
Yeah, it's mad quiet.
yeah, so it takes a lot of being intentional. I think you used the word intentional like 5, 6 times in that answer.
Yeah, like that's what you got to do. You got to be
And I loved how you said, look, let's get off autopilot because throughout your answer, I was just thinking most of us are in sleepwalk mode or autopilot. And you're like, hey, instead of inching your way into the Monday, let's go with that right cross as you mentioned. Yeah. And I love how you gave a few examples. You said, hey, talk to somebody who inspires you. Go out in the woods. Like, I mean, I was in Japan lately and they talked about forest.
Oh, that must have been incredible, man.
And there's so many different answers there to say, hey, what's our way to be really intentional and do the things that light us up as opposed to just following it to patterns. I love that. Okay, cool. Let's keep going with that. I think I'm going to come back to it in a bit. So tell me what you're doing now. You talked about the entrepreneurial chapter.
What I'm doing right now, I just had some yogurt with some walnuts in it, and and I think you meant what I'm doing now. Yes, what I'm doing now is I'm embarked on a very beautiful entrepreneurial chapter. It's what is known as being in the portfolio phase of your career. It's instead of doing one thing for one person, it's doing little portfolios of things for many, of which you're not beholden to one, but you get, variety and different, cross pollinations, of which it just kind of fills your cup, and you do a little bit of each to add up to a lot. So, at the end of 2023, I decided to go full time entrepreneur, running my leadership advisory firm. And just as you said in the introduction, I work with purpose-driven leaders and social impact organizations during transformational times, helping them, whether through emotional intelligence methodologies or revenue growth strategies. My background is B2B. So I come from a place in space where we close deals, like enterprise-sized deals. We pitched, we wrote proposals, we came up with creative offerings to bring in large-sized Fortune 500 clients. In the purpose-driven space with social impact organizations, you have non-for-profits that are at a time where there's great polarization. Most governments and administrations are leaning more rightwards. So as a result, grants are drying up. They have to find other means to monetize. So in many cases, they could seek partnerships with private companies that have ESG policies, CSR policies, DEI policies, community investment departments, of which they want to align themselves with community brands that are doing good, so they can do good and do well. So I work with executive directors, helping them put together business development strategies where they can learn how to pitch, learn how to tell powerful stories, and learn how to manage a funnel so they can bring in those private partnerships to supplant the grant streams that are starting to wane. And then with purpose-driven leaders, I just like working with good people, and that takes me overseas, working with leaders in parts of the world that are going through massive transformation and quantum growth. And it's not just about commerce, it's about overhauling pillars of society. So the emotional intelligence comes into play big time there. So that's where I help them with. And it's also parts of the world that are much more open and have a higher propensity for external advisory, as opposed to maybe North America or Europe, where it's looked upon as an added expense or something that's expensive, or, you should know that. Why are you asking someone else to help you with that? So, so that's what I'm up to. And I'm enjoying it. And it takes me to some very interesting places on the planet. So, all good, man. All good.
Amazing. No, congratulations. I love how you're taking that business to business expertise and saying, hey, I want to do great stuff in the world. So tell me a little bit more about what does emotional intelligence mean to you? And why do you think it's important for organizations to really lean in on EI?
So emotional intelligence is essentially you having an understanding of the feelings within, how it affects you, And then even the behaviors and the feelings that you have and the sentiments and how you regulate and manage that and how it has an effect on others. And in this day and time, I mean, our brains are wired in a certain way, particularly the amygdala, where either we see danger or we see opportunity to survive. That's what's known as our lizard brain. It's been around since the beginning of time. It hasn't really evolved much. So in many cases, what's replaced, the specter of maybe a saber-toothed tiger jumping out of a tree and then whisking you away as prey. Our amygdalas interpret stress at work as a threat to our survival. People that aren't familiar to us, we're pack animals by nature. And it creates these instant reactions that sabotage our decision making and our sound judgments. If we're able to have like an ability to regulate that, to govern that, it allows us to navigate well during really challenging times. And if there's ever a point in history where we're living through challenging times, it's now. Like we're surrounded by geopolitics, we're surrounded by stagnating economies, we're surrounded by polarized communities, we're surrounded by certain stages in our careers where we're surplus to requirement, and then we're also surrounded by AI. All these things that are making the amygdala go haywire.
Yeah.
So, if we're more emotionally intelligent, we're better served to not only help ourselves and regulate and govern ourselves, but also to help others be regulated. The only thing that's going to guarantee our survival on this planet is to be as human as possible. And the beautiful thing about emotional intelligence is that you're not born with it. It's not a fixed asset, and you can actually get better with it with time and motivation and application. And the peak year, let me give you a pop quiz. What do you think the peak years are for emotional intelligence? Yeah, you're a sports guy. Like certain, actually all sports, maybe with the exception of, I don't know, bodybuilding or boxing, but usually your peak year for athletic prowess is like 29. And after that, it goes downhill. What do you think it is for emotional intelligence?
I feel like this might be a bit of a trick question, but I would say
Yeah.
I would say significantly later than that. Like I don't know if I want to
Yes.
attach a number to it, but I think it's
60s.
yeah. My thinking is it's around that ability to constantly learn, constantly grow, constantly evolve.
Mhm.
And I think for me, I've met leaders and I meet a lot of leaders who have that approach, and they just, whether they're 60, 80, 40, 20, they've
Yeah.
got this certain energy that's with them, right? That says, I'm
Yeah.
still learning at this time. I recently interviewed the ex-CEO of WD-40, Gary Ridge,
Nice.
and he just wants to learn. Even on that call, you could see there's that thirst to learn. So I absolutely love it. So what are some tools, like, when, in terms of emotional intelligence? So let's say a leader's, struggling with all the things you talked about and
Mhm.
is triggered often. I was talking to a leader earlier this week who said, look, my team triggers me a lot with their approach. What can
Mhm.
individuals do to maybe start growing in emotional intelligence?
Yes, yes. So the beautiful thing about this is it doesn't have to be a rocket science. It really comes down to, if you think about, we talked about the amygdala and how it just reacts. Like it just reacts. Like it immediately tries to decide within a matter of seconds, which in its defense, it's supposed to do that because many years ago, if it didn't do that, we get eaten. But now it works against us, where it's like you're reacting and you make wrong decisions. The first thing all leaders should do is pause. Pause so that you can allow the other parts, whether it's the neocortex, the hippocampus. It's also known as system 1 and system 2 thinking. Give yourself a little window of time so that the system 2 aspect of your brain, the rational side of your brain, can kick in and really look at things for what they are. And if you have that ability to pause, it's incredible what you can do in terms of how you address others, how do you react to others when you get triggered. And if you can make that into muscle memory, then it sets you up nicely for every encounter, personally or professionally. Like we all need to pause. Like if you think of every time someone made a poor judgment that resulted in millions of dollars being lost or lives being lost, it was based on an emotional and rash reaction. And if you have that pause in the workshops, I focus when I do emotional intelligence training. There's many different schools of thought, but I focus on 5 core components. That being empathy, social skills, self-regulation, self-awareness, and motivation. And if you can focus within those 5 pillars, like for example, social skills. If you really want to be strong as a leader with emotional intelligence, you have to be adept at communicating with others because you're going to have to get them out of situations where they're not. You're going to have to be the leading light. And your social skills, mostly nonverbal, mostly through active listening skills, maybe 7 to 10% of your social skills and your strength within that is actually the words itself. That can make a difference between keeping your team or losing your team. If you think about self-regulation, it's that point of pausing where you're stressed out, where you're inflamed. Cortisol's raging. You're literally at the razor's edge of just, going off the deep end. Being able to take care of yourself, that's where you practice self-care. Self-awareness, also knowing what you're capable of, knowing yourself. You just understanding what you're good at, what you're not so good at, where you need others to weigh in. And then just the way in which, how you react to things, how you address people, the effect it has on others. All within those 5 pillars, it can all play an integral part in navigating during some really, really eventful, active, disruptive, and transformational times, all at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. I love how they link together, right? So, for example,
they're all intertwined. They're all intertwined.
When you're talking about pausing, I was thinking how that's beautiful when you talk about active listening, right? So instead of waiting to respond or playing verbal tennis, as I call it, you're actually listening, you're pausing, and you're giving the person the respect, the space to talk to you, and you're actually listening. So I love how they all pull together. So is this something like that's a practice that over time you slowly get better? Like, what's your philosophy on this? How do you help people grow in these areas?
Well, I think I've used the word intentional like a gajillion times. Like you really have to be intentional. Like you really have to take this serious. You can get scientific about it. I actually do assessments with my clients on a platform called EQI 2.0. Phenomenal platform. And it actually takes it a step further. It's a 21-page report consisting of testing results and scores from 5 different emotional intelligence composites, and then 15 subcategories within those composites. But what ends up happening is you could look at all those ranges, but let's be realistic. We all have busy days. To try and incorporate fixing all those 20 different signifiers and remedying each one of them, and then actually doing a day job, it's not sustainable. The minute things get busy or crazy, that will fall on the floor. What we actually do in the assessment is we'll look at 3, and then the report has simple strategies for action. And the one thing that's just common amongst all the strategies for action, over and over and over again in the recommendations, besides some very prescriptive like ideas and suggestions, which makes the report so great, most of it is just pausing. Just pause. It's 2 things: pausing and documenting. Like getting things out of your head. Like if it, under self-awareness, one of the subsets under self-awareness is self-regard. So if you have low self-regard, surround yourself with people that can pick you up, like kind of like we're talking about on Mondays. Or take a step back and get away from your amygdala running rampant through your head and document an article, all the things you've accomplished. Right. And then when you start to look at it, you're like, and if you start to look at it combined with other people actually telling you, Ron, you're great at what you do, eventually you start to believe it. And then your amygdala starts to quiet down. It's like, I rest my case, Your Honor. I have no more further arguments. System 2 wins. Right. So, yeah.
I love it.
They're very simple strategies, and they're all sustainable. Like documenting could be just journaling. Like I journal every night. I started doing that because when you become an entrepreneur, it's a different kind of stress. It's a different kind of stress that usually, not to compare one to the other, because everybody's situations are unique. But in my situation, the difference between the stress in a corporate job and the stress of entrepreneurship is the consolation prize with the corporate job is, oh, you got paid every 2 weeks. I mean, this one, it's like you get stressed. Oh, you're not going to get any money. So you're going to be
Yeah.
stressed and starving. But and it creates a level of anxiety and wild thoughts in your head that I found that I needed to journal every night before I went to bed. But what I
That.
do is I actually put in my calendar an alarm every quarter to go back and look at the old journal entries.
Oh, wow.
Because when I look at the old journal entries and I look at the night where it wasn't a good night, and I already know the resolution, hindsight's always 2020.
Mm.
My brain made a big deal out of nothing. The ground didn't open up and swallow me whole. But what that helps me with is going forward into the next days where I'm thinking about, oh boy, it's going to be a tough week.
Yes.
I have the reference points of all the other tough weeks where I made stuff happen and it worked out.
Yeah, and I think there's a constant theme that we have through this podcast of learning and growing. And, even for me as a speaker, right? I mean, we both speak on stages. And I
Yes,
remember
sir.
my first few speeches, I was so nervous and I was sweating. And, if they put me in that same stage now, I'm much more comfortable because I've kind of leaned into that tough situation. And I've got that in the bank, so to speak, right? And again, one of the things I've started doing, and I was doing it before, I'm restarting it, is what's my highlight reel for 2025, right? Because oftentimes we forget about all the good things we're doing. And, as you said, when entrepreneurship, you don't get paid every 2 weeks. So I feel that stress as well, right? So even just reminding ourselves of all the great things we're doing, or even just a simple practice that you and I have talked about. What are 3 things I'm grateful for today? I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it's Dan Sullivan, the book you recommended, 10X is easier than 2X.
Oh my gosh, that's the dude.
And the chapter I was listening to yesterday was just, what are your 3 wins for today? And they don't have to be grandiose. They can just be a simple thing. Like, I had a great conversation with you today that we're going to share with the world. Like, that could be on the list. So it's these simple things oftentimes that make a big difference, right?
Step away and document the small victories, like, because they add up over time. And the other thing too is, you always used to hear this back in, sports in my playing days. Like, you got to trust the process. Like, you got to trust the process, and then find small victories until you get to like the promised land. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. Just stay the course, right? And the only way for you to stay the course is to break it down into bites. In many cases, compartmentalize, not necessarily in a negative way, like you're an axe murderer and you just don't care about the bodies. Like, it's just compartmentalize positive things, instead of like, it's just a leg. It doesn't belong to anybody of importance, I just can't help myself. It's
amazing.
The moon.
I think as you said, it's like structuring our days to be much more intentional, right? To say, what are the things we're doing every day? What are these small practices that add up to significant growth over time?
Yeah.
Right. That's been a big learning for me, because even as a speaker, I would be on such a high when I did a speech, and then you forget about all the legwork that goes into that. Now I say, look, that conversation, that email, celebrate those, because those are part of the process, as you talked about.
Yeah. I love this Abraham Lincoln saying. I think it's like, if it takes like 6 hours to chop down a tree, take the first 4 hours to sharpen the axe.
Yeah.
And like, the prep is everything. And and trust in the process, but also honoring the process and treating it like a craft. Like, when you treat it like a craft, it's not the actual performance that's sexy for you.
Yes.
What's sexy for you is the prep. Like, I came in mad prepared for this. I'm going to smash it today. Like, you think about someone like Kobe Bryant or Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of set pieces Cristiano Ronaldo would take in a practice. Why is everybody surprised when he hits the penalty kick, in the deepest times of the Euros or, Champions League? Because it's automatic for him. It's the same with Kobe, like buzzer beater. But he took like 500 of those shots in practice. And I think for us, it's the dry runs. It's testing. Maybe we try something in a smaller venue. And then, for you, like I'm excited for you because you're gonna go, you got your big shot coming up in the kingdom, right? And yeah, but this all the things, all the different workshops you did, it leads up to that, right? The big show. And it's just all those little small wins.
Yeah,
Small
I
wins
know.
wins
And
add
look,
up.
what you're referring to, just for my listeners,
Yeah.
is I'm doing a session in the Middle East, and thanks to Hugh, because
Nice.
I want to say, like, one of my big learnings as an entrepreneur, and you mentioned earlier, surround
Mm.
yourself with good people
Mhm.
uh, who you really want to spend time with. You feel great. So every time I have a conversation with you, Hugh, I feel like I can walk on water. Those are the type of no, because you just
Nice,
bring this
nice.
energy, and I just want to give you
My
credit for
pleasure.
that
Thank you.
authentic energy. And what I also like about it, I use the word authentic, is you're very clear on who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with.
Yep.
And that's unusual, right? Because most people will just be like, okay, let me open the funnel as wide as
Yeah.
possible. You're very clear on, I want to have a positive impact in the world. And
Yeah.
here's the type of people who I want to work with. So
Yeah, I just want to go
congratulations
where
on
I'm
that.
loved. I think as I get older, I'm turning into one of the men on the balcony of the Muppet Show. So my pain threshold and patience is not as elastic as it used to be. I understand, and I now am very, very, very mindful and protective of just avoiding microaggressions, avoiding places and spaces where I'm not celebrated. As I mentioned before, I'm not elastic. Like whether I try my best, these things, as much as they think, you think that the way you're treated, if it's poorly, that it rolls off your back. It doesn't. And as you get older, you start to see the scar tissue of that. I can't do that anymore. Like I got to run stealth. And the thing is that, being on the planet long enough, you start to see and you can smell a room that's not for you. And I don't know at this point if I can do anything to win them over. And I don't want to use energy to win them over. I rather just go where I'm loved. And the minute you go into rooms where you're loved and where you're appreciated, where you're celebrated, and you can be yourself, you realize that things don't have to be as difficult. Everything just manifests. Like the energy you bring into the room, because the energy that's been showered on you, it just creates like this exponential effect that everything just falls into place.
Amazing.
And then the more that happens, then you just get this bionic third eye where you can look and you can smell danger a mile away. And the minute, you just look in some, like I can actually, I want to call it somebody and I can see the gears working in their head and they're trying to they're trying to figure me out. Like there's not much to figure out, but if someone has to figure me out, it's not going to work out. This is who I am. I don't cause anybody harm. I'm not a harmful person. But if you have to try and put those two together,
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with you. I want nothing. You need to go figure that out and work that out on your own. Like I'm just gonna go where I'm loved. I'm on the back nine of my life. I don't have time to waste.
Yeah, no, but it's
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
learning, right? Like, and I
yeah,
think
yeah,
about my early career, and oftentimes
yeah,
I was in an environment where I felt like I couldn't make that decision to
yes,
exit that environment or impact the environment. I now, I always tell folks, like, as
yeah,
you said, go where you're loved or go where
yeah,
you feel like you can be yourself. That's another thing you said,
yeah, yeah.
and feel the energy. Like I consciously do this to say when I'm talking to somebody, how
Hmm.
do I leave that conversation? Do I feel a little buoyed by the energy or am I drained by the energy?
Yeah,
And it's a good clue to say, does your environment on Monday or any other day
yeah, yeah,
increase your energy or sap your energy? And if it's
yeah,
the latter, it's like, hey, what can you do to create an environment which celebrates you? I love that. That's what you said.
yeah, yeah. You know what? You know my benchmark now for how well the sessions go? Prayer beads. Like when I'm over there, if I smash it, people give me their prayer beads.
Oh, wow.
But there's just some rooms in here in Canada where I'm doing the same workshop and I feel like a supply teacher in summer school. Right?
Yes.
It's just like, no, this is not my place. I'm out. Like this is
Yes. Yes.
yeah, you just gotta remember those feelings and make that your benchmark and your North Star as to what you so rightly deserve and what you're capable of doing. And in many cases, the way in which you're treated usually has absolutely nothing to do with you.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's that person. Those people don't love Mondays yet, and they may never
Exactly.
will.
Exactly.
So
So you do a lot of keynote speeches. I've seen you
yes,
speak a reel, and you've done some phenomenal work in the Middle East. What's your favorite topic to speak about? Is it emotional intelligence or is it something else?
I love talking about emotional intelligence, but I love weaving them into. I love African proverbs. Um, I love see the other thing when you think about the components of emotional intelligence. The one that really resonates with me is self awareness. And when I say self awareness, a lot of people don't realize that half of who you are, you inherited. You only really can move the dial on the other 50%. So if you really dig into where that half came from, and I mean dig like DNA tests, you'll realize that the professions that you chose, the way in which you communicate, the way in which you engage others, the way you build relations and trust, you probably inherited that like 5, 6 generations ago. So my parents are Jamaican. But when I look into my DNA, I did DNA tests. My roots trace into Nigeria. I'm of West African descent as a result of the transatlantic slave trade into the diasporic parts of the world, like North America, the Caribbean, South America. I'm also someone who's always been very good when I'm moving, when I'm nomadic, like when I'm in sales, traveling, visiting new places, fitting in, building rapport quickly, driving consensus, getting people to a decision in another part of the country, another part of the world. My brother's nomadic. My mom was very nomadic. If I continue those DNA tests and we were to put some money on the table, more than likely I came from a nomadic tribe. I also come from a part of the world that has a strong oral storytelling tradition of excellence. Anybody you see that's like really good on a mic in front of Beyonce, Whitney Houston, any rapper, they're all of West African descent. Like we're just natural storytellers. And it's really started to kick in when I really had to dig deep. I was in a really tough job and I just had no confidence and I wasn't a fit. I was treated in a certain way. And I was really down on myself and I really had to dig deep and figure out what is it that makes me so good where I was really hitting my stride in a past job. And then I thought about my dad. Like my dad used to tell these incredible stories. Anytime we used to have family barbecues, my uncles would come over. Great stories. When we lived in Jamaica for 5 years, the teacher always read us about Brer Rabbit and Nancy the Spider, which are all fables and parables that were from West African culture. And we didn't know at the time. So that's when I realized I just come from a descendant of powerful storytellers. And then when I think about people, I think about my annual reviews at work. Everybody's like, yeah, you have a way with words and you always seem to find a good way to kind of just summarize and give us insight that we never thought of. And oh, you're funny. And that's all West African tradition. That's the other 50%. So in the publics, in the speaking agents, I double down on that. Like just stories, but it's still within a structure and a framework in a professional setting. But I just double down on the powerful storytelling, like whether it's my own life experiences, it's just things tied to stats. There's so many African proverbs that you can reference that can give you a lesson learned for a certain aspect in professional or personal lives. I just double down on that. And everything I double down on here is rooted in West African tradition and Black tradition. And the thing is, Ron, is that you spend your whole life trying to fit into boxes. You're the only one in the room that looks like you. And in many cases, because of that box, you're doing everybody a disservice because you're trying to be someone you're not. So you're probably operating at 60%. And then nobody wins. The company doesn't win. You're not at your best. You don't win. The people around you don't win. So I'm just full tilt now. I'm full tilt, 110%, as I say, Black with a capital B. And anybody benefits. The client benefits. The audience benefits, and I'm being 110% of who I am.
Amazing.
And
I love
that just shows up. That just shows up in everything I talk. Like it's just full
Amazing.
tilt.
Okay, well, you've teed up these African proverbs.
Yeah,
Give me
yeah,
one,
yeah. You want
give me
some?
one that, and give me a story that goes with it.
So I got a bunch, but I want to be mindful of time. But man, if you just Google search or you can use Chat GPT for African proverbs, I'll give you some because I actually literally I'll give you the ones that I love the most and I can tie them to a professional reference, like the point I was trying to get across. The rain does not fall on one roof alone. And what that means is empathy. Everybody's going through something, right?
Yes.
Second one, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors.
Love
Like
that.
like I say, success is the worst teacher. When we talk about hubris, or you talk about ways in which we need to get better, continuous improvement, constantly evolving and learning, being a lifelong learner. Um, you got to put yourself in bumpy situations to build that muscle memory. Like I said, when you talk about weightlifting, right? When you talk about someone who wants to get more muscular, when you're lifting weights, essentially when you're lifting weights, you're tearing muscle. And then after you've done the tearing of the muscle in your workout, that's why you're sore. But what ends up happening is that you build scar tissue. And when that scar tissue accumulates, your muscles get bigger and you get stronger. So that's essentially, isn't that growth in a nutshell? I mean, Rod, every great thing that's ever happened to you probably happened in close proximity to a dark time that perceived.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. You talked about when you do the speaking engagement, the first time you spoke, it wasn't so great.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
you smash it. Now you're being flown to like the Middle East to speak. This is a good one. You learn to cut down trees by cutting them down. Right. So all those
Yeah.
times you stub your toe,
Yeah.
you learned something from it. But the only way for you to learn is to actually do it. Right. I guess they call it experiential learning. I got two more for you. The eye of the leopard is on the goat, not the grass. Meaning like laser focus. You're a finance guy. Like it's all
Yeah.
about the numbers. That if you can't measure it, it doesn't matter. Everything else is noise. Everything else is grass. I'm Jamaican, so I can relate to goat because we all like curry goat. And then the last one I got for you, a tree with strong roots laughs at storms. So that's the whole thing. Like the minute I really truly understood my roots all the way to DNA. And next year I'm going to start dipping my toe in sub-Saharan Africa, with just doing some work there. And I'm going to find a village in Nigeria where my family came from. Like I need to know. I need to know. Because the more I know, the more I can laugh at storms.
Yeah, that's so deep. I think we need to do a second podcast just on these proverbs and dive deeper because I think I'm going to actually go and research some of these that you talked about.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is there's so many parallels. I went to Japan, I was telling you. And I went to visit a bamboo forest where it takes 3 to 5
I saw your pictures of your wife.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years just to build the root system. Mm-hmm. And then once it builds that strong root system, it shoots up at like a meter a day or something. Yeah. And within 90 days, you've got like a 90-foot, bamboo shoot, right? Like, so it's amazing the lessons learned. And again, you talked about nature very early in this podcast to say, what can we learn from history? And what I loved about Japan is also there's that rich tradition of learning, right? Of honoring our ancestors and learning from the past and storytelling and all these things. So I feel like we could go on forever, but I'm going to give you the last word. What's one thing you want to close with?
I think if everybody's zigging, you should zag. Like just go down the road less traveled. And I think going down the road less traveled is finding ways to shake up your morning to start your Mondays. Don't just fall into the queue of everybody else just sort of dragging themselves into work. If everybody's saying go to this one place, try something different. Like go to Japan. This one's going to be an interesting one. I'm still trying to navigate through it, but my instinct in my heart's telling me to do with it after I have, a discussion with my family. I've been asked to do a speaking engagement in Lebanon. And what I've also learned in the last year or so is the lens at which we look at the rest of the world from North America and Canada is greatly stained.
Yes.
My mind's saying, ugh, and my heart's saying, look into it further, Hugh, ask some questions, talk to different people. I just found in the last year, the more I zag, the more things manifest. And I think that's a nice way to wrap up talking about loving Mondays. I think one of the best ways to love Mondays is to zag. Because if you zig, you'll just dread Mondays forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that analogy, and that's worked for me as well in the last few years.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage, and it's hard. Like I think the choppy seas analogy works well there. But there's a huge reward when you start zagging, when you do something that's different, unexpected, new. There's massive rewards there. So totally agree.
Well, I mean, think about your story. I mean, you're a humble cat, but when I first learned, when you first introduced yourself to me, last year, and you told me about, I was a finance leader and somewhat of an introvert, and I'm like, I'm going to start doing speaking engagements and doing all these workshops and getting on stage. That's like a zag in caps.
Yes.
Most people would be crippled in anxiety trying to just flip the script like that. But look how it's worked out. Look how it's worked out.
And same thing I see with you, right? Like, I mean, I called you a few weeks ago and I said, Hugh, I want to be like you. You're doing all these gigs all over the world. How do I be with you? And long story short, you connected me with somebody, and so there's so many lessons there in the zagging piece and just doing something different and stuff. So Hugh, thank you so much. I think we're going to do another one.
My pleasure, man.
I think we're going to do another one dedicated to African Proverbs. But all the best, and continue making the difference in the world, man.
I'll try my best, man. I'm going to try my best.
Awesome.
All right, no problem.